Between 2003 and 2014, the mining and commodities boom provided major economic benefits to Australian businesses and consumers. But what is it? A commodities boom essentially results in the surge of prices and demand for natural resources, as represented by iron in this graph. As also seen in this graph, this boom was characterized by a surge in demand for rapidly developing countries like China, India, South Korea and Japan to fuel their industry growth and infrastructure projects. Australia, being incredibly rich in natural commodities such as iron ore, gold, coal and natural gas, made it a key supplier to meet this demand. This made Australian commodities highly valuable and sought after, resulting in a surge of economic activity. The boom impacted many Australian businesses and consumers, but let's take a look at where exactly the positive and negative impacts of the boom lie, with reference to the Reserve Bank of Australia's historical data for the following graphs. Keep in mind, the following graphs are using estimates for shaded areas and most of the data for after 2016. To a large extent, Australian mining companies experienced huge benefits during the boom. As this graph shows, investment spending by the mining sector increased from 2% of the GDP to 8%. But those numbers don't mean anything unless we see how impactful this really was. That's why behind me is the Russell Vale Colliery. This is owned by a company called Wollongong Resources. Sounds like a state subsidiary or something, right? Well, actually, Wollongong Resources was bought out by Indian investors for $500 million during the peak of the boom, merging it with India's fast-growing steel sector. This meant that all the resources gathered from this mine go straight into feeding India's mega projects, benefiting both the Australian economy through tens of millions of dollars in taxes, but also the wider global economy, all through one of Australia's 350 mines. And if that didn't show how economically significant this boom was, the average Australian consumer also directly benefited as a part of the boom. Ignoring the yellow and purple lines on this graph, we can see that household consumption and household income both increased as a result of the boom. What's interesting, however, is where this money was going. Due to the increase in disposable income, demand for housing surged. However, due to the fixed nature of the housing supply, this led to an increase in rental prices and a decrease in vacancy rates, as represented by this graph. However, high rents and house prices encourage housing construction, meaning, to a small but significant extent, the mining boom was actually responsible for a lot of the new housing developments now opening in the suburbs, providing a huge impact on housing supply. Spending also increases on luxuries for the average citizen, as seen in this graph. The benefit this brought to Australian businesses is undeniable. Unemployment was also positively impacted. The mining boom opened many jobs that were quickly filled by middle-class workers ranging from engineers to tradesmen, decreasing unemployment in the sector by almost 3%. This impact is even more significant in states like Western Australia or the Northern Territory. Among these many positive impacts, we must also look at the negative impacts brought by the mining boom. Australia's manufacturing industry was affected by something known as deindustrialization during the boom. This is because manufacturing output is supported by the higher spending, investment and income of the mining sector, especially during the boom. In the boom's first decade, the net effect is moderate. As seen on the yellow line in this graph, manufacturing output was estimated to be about 5% lower in 2013 than without the boom, according to the RBA. However, as mining investment fades and with it the demand for manufacturing, many Aussie businesses such as Holden shut their doors, sufficing a huge blow to Australian-made goods and resulting in a decrease in spending from consumers towards domestic goods. Overall, the Australian Productivity Commission estimates manufacturing output is down by about 13% to date, an effect that continues to increase over time. The boom isn't fully to blame, as manufacturing has been declining as a share of total employment for decades. The mining boom simply accentuates this trend, and Australia's domestic manufacturing is likely to never recover, for various reasons. The boom resulted in a variety of responses from state and federal government, private agencies, and the businesses themselves. The state government increased infrastructure spending to allow for efficiency improvements to be made for the movement of these commodities. One such example is the $500 million renovation made to this highway right here, which connects to the Russell Vale Colliery just down there. Many new bypasses and lanes were added to allow for quicker movement of commodities to Port Botany and the Wollongong rail yard. This rail line all the way to Newcastle was also strengthened to allow for 100 That's right, 100 car freight trains to go all the way to Port Kembla. The federal government also took action by handing out tax breaks to mines in order to help reduce the cost of doing business in Australia. Don't worry, however, these cuts still benefited the economy since they were only given to mines with exceptional environmental standards, creating new jobs and investing in new projects. With all of these commodities being exported at a rapid pace, the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade did its job, instigating negotiation for trade agreements with Taiwan, South Korea, China and Japan. They also launched a new website for private companies overseas to educate themselves about the regulations based around using Aussie commodities, promoting it on a global scale. Private agencies also reacted quickly. The Australian Institute of Mining increased its training and development program to bring new miners into the workforce. The Minerals Council of Australia also reacted by increasing its membership to allow for more smaller mines and acts as a union for them. Finally, the mega companies who own these mines, international or domestic, also reacted very quickly to the boom, most noticeably their surging profits going towards diversifying their portfolio in case the boom suddenly collapsed. This included investment into new markets such as renewable energy and lithium mining, both of which seem to be booming in our current market. Furthermore, risk mitigation was implemented to prevent price volatility, currency exchange fluctuation, and conducting due diligence before implementing new projects or customers. Risk mitigation was also heavily put on safety. Unfortunately, during the height of the mining boom, Baconsfield mine in Tasmania collapsed, killing 17 people. Furthermore, between 2003 and 2014, 52 mining-related fatalities occurred. We must acknowledge how much risk miners and engineers put themselves in every day helping run Australia's biggest industry, and the prodigious economic benefits that come with it. Thank you for watching.